Honor and a privilege, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Adult
having me.
PE, adult PE to not adults.
Sorry, what?
Adult PE to non-adults.
Adult PE to non-adults.
So we're teaching
Um,
PE.
yeah. So the funny thing is right now I'm sitting in a locker room, like my office is in the PE locker room. So when you say that, it's just like it's very real for me in the sense of like it is physical education, what I've taught in the schools as well as over the past decade plus in affiliates.
It's beautiful, right? Like, you bring in or adults come on into the gym and like, guys, we're gonna do this, and we break it down. And sometimes you see some glazed eyes, and it's like, let's not take it too seriously, guys. This is just adult PE at the end of the day. And you see some smiles, and you're like, okay, cool, sweet. We've got you. We've got you on the hook. Let's just move around. Let's have some fun, and let's work hard, right? And I came across the little video of yours of what's the secret sauce of CrossFit, what's that intensity piece, right? Of course, like you gotta work hard. It's how do you make kids work hard? You make it more fun, and it made me smile because I'm like, I do the same frigging thing to adults, mate.
Yeah. It's just motivation, I guess, and you want to try to help motivate people that need a little bit of motivation, whatever age they are. And, if they can have the discipline to understand the benefits of it themselves of like, this is worth it, that's great. But that's our job as trainers and teachers is to be the motivator if they need a motivator.
Mm. So why tackle the demographic of children?
Hmm. Uh, like tackle it. I like that term tackle. For me personally, I was very fortunate to have amazing coaches, amazing teachers, and amazing mentors when I was growing up. And it just seemed like the right thing to do. And I don't mean that in the sense of like right and wrong. It just seemed like the path that was set up before me of, hey, this is something that I know how to do. Not in the sense that I know how to teach kids when I'm 19 years old, thinking I want to start being, a trainer for kids or, a PE teacher or anything like that. But I've seen people do it, and I've seen that uh, the benefit that they've had teaching all those kids because I loved my coaches and teachers, and I really appreciated the effort that they put into it. So I thought that that was a worthy endeavor to go down.
Let's be honest, like, it's a bottom up approach. This healthcare system, this fitness thing, this preventative medicine is a bottom up approach. We can't just throw a load of dollars at the top and be like, yeah, everything's going to be fine. Well, what happens? It's not going to trickle down. We have to start with kids. We have to start with movement mechanics, right? Rather than breaking a load of kids and trying to fix them when they're 21, 22, 23. I mean, we'd have seen a local affiliate, right? You would have heard the story of somebody played college ball or was knocking on the door playing rugby or as a tennis player or something, got hurt, went off the rockers, started doing all types of stuff that they shouldn't be doing. 5 years later, they put on a hell of a lot of weight. They're mentally unwell. They're really depressed. They've lost a load of mates, and then they come on in. You just kind of look at them and you're like, how did we fail you?
Yeah. I have thought about that a lot actually, from being someone who did play sports and then had that kind of awkward transition period. And I've met, hundreds of individuals who, are like-minded and that they've gone through it as well. But I think that one of the coolest parts that we get to teach to kids and teenagers and young adults
Yeah.
is the fact that we can actually define fitness, and we can tangibly explain how to do it.
Mm.
The age old saying of, you know, varies by degree, not kind. It's the same thing whether you're an athlete or you're not an athlete. You go into the gym and you constantly very functional movements, execute at high intensity with friends, and then you're gonna get all the benefits of it. So I love doing that for my teenagers of explaining what they can do when I'm not there. Right.
Yeah.
It's not a means to an end of like we're doing this to get ready for the final game. It's just the process that we do to be better. And whether you're trying to be, a star athlete or you're just trying to, live a good life, this is the formula. So when
Mm.
I'm not here, guess what? Show up, pick a couple movements, make a descending ladder, have a couple friends, do the workout real quick, and then get on with your day and go enjoy life.
Yeah, and you get that objective data, right? And sometimes that can offer you more questions than it does answers, and I think that's a good thing. Maybe it goes down. Maybe the score isn't as good as you wanted it to be, or the kilos or the pounds on the bar isn't as high as you wanted it to be. Cool. Then it offers a lot more questions of why.
Mhm.
Oh, I only slept 5 hours last night. Oh, I ate like half a pizza for my tea last night and didn't have any protein the day before or whatever, right? It asked all these questions, which can then layer in a little bit of lessons underneath, rather than like, I am the high school football coach. You do as I say because I'm the dictator, and that's great in a way, offers a lot of discipline and people have got to work under high stress environments. But once you take that away, people just fall over. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's funny. I am a high school football coach. So I get the opportunity to try to hopefully break that stigma. And I love when you said, like, it brings up the question. It's good to ask questions. When a kid asks a question, whatever age, like if it's a 5-year-old being like, why are our butterfly wings up high? Like I love answering it. And I might answer a 5-year-old in the sense of like, it's actually the butterfly wings, they get you up high so that you're able to fly higher when you squat. Like, yes, of course, that's a 5-year-old appropriate answer. But for the 15-year-olds that are like, my legs are really sore and I just PR'd my squat. I just got a personal best on my squat. How is that possible? And then you get to have a conversation, talk through it, and answer why the fact that you've been training consistently and you've just felt this soreness for a while, but you slept really good last night and you ate today at lunch instead of not eating all day. And like you just mentioned, like all those little questions that they ask and you start to explain. And then that builds more trust to where they start understanding that there's layers to this and that they want to start peeling back more and more layers, which is, that's just good. Like that's just good stuff, whether you're talking about training or you're talking about, your job or, you're talking about studying. It's just always good to be curious. So if we can instill that in our kids inside the weight room, that's just icing on the cake.
For sure, man. And I think, it offers a unique perspective because we're doing something physically. So we're burning a little bit of energy, yeah, but we're interacting with the world around us and we can palpate what's going on and we can touch it and we're like, oh, okay, there's a difference here. It feels heavier, it feels worse, it feels better. Like, and you can learn from those environments. And I would like to see that done more often, rather than just let's go run track. It's like, yeah, okay, let's go run track. And now let's like teach after it. I remember getting a lot of you get a lot of high stress individuals come on in, or you might get some people dealing with some really bad mental health issues, right? You come on in, okay, cool. Just like everybody, you kick them in the face with a CrossFit workout, right? The barriers come down, they feel a little bit better, you get the dopamine just kicking through. And you're like, cool, here's a journal. So here's a piece of paper, here's a pen. And I'm gonna leave the room for 15 minutes, and you're just gonna write down whatever you want to write down, and then we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna discuss it, and if you want to, of course, I'm not gonna force you to, but I think through the physical realm, physical adversity, I guess, physical movement, it does peel back that layer, it drops those barriers, and then we can then explore those new possibilities of learning. And I think with kids, it's a beautiful example.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to do it more often, man.
Yeah, what you just brought up, that like, you need to, you can't just talk about it. Like there needs to be, you need to actually do the workout.
Yeah.
Right. I think
Yeah.
that's true of all ages. And one thing that I've learned to be mindful of through learning from other trainers and just kids themselves is that first workout for a kid. It may be that the challenge and barrier that they broke down was showing up. Right.
Huge.
It because they probably, like, if we're talking about little kids, they didn't drive themselves. If we're talking about older kids, it may be that, they didn't want to, but their caregivers were like, hey, you are going to do this. And then they just have to follow suit. But I would say that my favorite part about working with the kids who do not want to be there is trying to find what they think is fun and trying to find what motivates them to make them work just a little bit harder than they thought they could or wanted to, and then ending it right there and not pushing too much into it. Because as soon as they get that feeling, I want to highlight that to them and make it so that they don't go too deep down the rabbit hole of like, oh, I'm working hard, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, this does suck, and this is way too hard. But if we get it right there, then we can, just like we would with a barbell, where we want to add 5 more pounds the next week and add a little bit more the next week, is we can work a little bit harder, and then the next day work a little bit harder, and then the next day work a little bit harder. And I really enjoy doing that because I think that those are the kids that probably are least likely to be exercising. And I don't want to say that it's more important that we coach them more than the kids that want to be exercising. But if we don't get them when they're young, if we don't make them find some enjoyment in it, then we possibly lose them for the rest of their lives. So it is, like you said, that bottom up approach of like, find them, help them, care for them. Throwing money at them is not going to work. Like the healthcare analogy used earlier. And yeah, that's just something I'm super mindful of as a PE teacher, where I have a whole, we have 300 students, and you got to meet each one where they're at that day.
That day, man. It's that minimum effective dose, right? Like, and a lot of the time it's trying to cause somewhat of an average linear progression, but through social development as well, right? It's going to go up and down. It's going to be a bit homeostatic. It's going to peak and trough, no problem. But we want that average to then slowly be creeping up, right? And fun is a great way of doing that. And meeting the kid where they're at is a great way of doing that, because they don't have all those barriers that they've placed on themselves that we do when we're adults, right? It's like, no, I can't do that because of this happened as when I was a kid, or because I'm this or this label or whatever. It gets a little bit more tricky. But with a kid, they're still malleable. And I think we can learn from kids a lot, because they can change very easily. And if we can nurture that and allow them to be a bit more autonomous, right? Rather than here's 2 lines, run between them as much as you can. So no, let's widen it up a little bit. Like, the possibilities are nearly limitless. Go out and explore, but you're going to be in a safe environment where, yeah, you could hurt yourself, but there's not padded walls everywhere. Like, there needs to be consequence, but it's not like it's going to be dire.
Yeah, Alex, I'm just curious, what you just said of like, you have to go between the lines, but if you learn from them, you can learn different ways to play games. You can learn different, you can learn different progression pieces. Like I've learned that before. So I was curious, like, with your background, like what have you learned from coaching kids in that realm of like, when you were doing something and you thought that this was the way, and then you're like, oh shoot, there are multiple ways. Like, do you have any standout memories of that?
That's a fantastic question, man. Some of the questions that kids come out with is phenomenal. Some of it is comical, but also, like, I like to ask them how they got there. It's like, how did you come up with that question? Like, oh, well, I was thinking about this, and then it just made sense to me. And I was like, how does that make sense to you? So then I can understand, not to try and mock them at all. I'm like, right,
Yeah, totally.
how did you get there cognitively? What line did you take? Because, like, if you're looking at my map, it's just clouds. I'm not getting there at all in a million years. So that's a lot that I learned from kids, is cognitively, how do they get there? But the biggest thing probably is the difference in socioeconomic groups. Like, it's huge, man. I've had the fucking honor and privilege of coaching in like a pretty nice area. Was the head strength and conditioning coach for a swimming club. I had about 350 kids that we facilitated through a program each week. Some really cool kids, man. Some really cool kids. And then at the same time, maybe 2 or 3 years prior to that, I was up in a high school in inner city Manchester, where we had kids shipped over from Eastern Africa, and they don't have any parents or guardians, and they're living with the quote unquote uncle, where it's literally just someone who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who signed a document, and they're probably about 19 in a 13-year-old class, but we have no documentation on them. And, it's violent. You double lock doors to keep people in. And it's seeing the social differences between those in retrospect, thinking back and be like, what can I learn from these kids, man? Because there's a lot. There's a lot there. There really is. And we're all products of our environment. And no kid is born bad. Right? Those kids is born with prejudice already within them of like, no, I'm gonna kick the shit out of the next kid. I was like, no, no, no. Like something pushed them there. So how can we break those barriers down and open it up so people can develop? I think
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing.
that's it's a profound thing working with kids in general, but what you just described, right? That's where, like you said earlier, of we can learn from these kids is if you take a breath and open up to the possibility of like, hey, I'm going to go put myself in this kind of, say, awkward, possibly unsafe, just like unknown situation of I'm going to go work with a bunch of kids who have been through a tough spot. Like the thing that I think most people are worried about in doing that is they're worried about failing those kids, right? It's like, I'm worried about, I don't want to fail those kids. But if you just put the time and energy into being there and listening to them and consistently showing up for them, whether that's just literally showing up by being in the room or showing up by setting expectations and then setting the line on what those expectations are again and again and again. And that's where, we can make the chance to, let's just say, reverse a lot of issues that they have started down the path on, but then because they met you, they took a right turn, and you can start to reverse those issues. And I know that, obviously we can talk about health issues such as, type 2 diabetes in children and, other chronic illnesses that are coming on, but mental illnesses of the trauma that they go through and how, yes, they might have different economic statuses, but social emotional learning through exercising and finding empathy with your classmates because you both did something that was a little bit more challenging than you thought it was going to be. And I really hope, I think that obviously I don't throw this out there to the general public. And I think we could probably agree on this. It's not like, hey, everyone should go work with kids. And then, you try to find the most challenging group of kids that you can think of to go work with. But a lot of CrossFit trainers who are, I was going to say potentially, probably the best trainers in the world, right? This cohort of CrossFit trainers who put their time and effort learning how to explain concisely and simply how to do these simple movements to complex movements. Like, I really hope that they find their way into working with a group of kids that they feel somewhat comfortable doing, whether that's little kids, whether that's teenagers, whether that's athletes at secondary schools or high schools, whether that's, in the nonprofit space of working with, underserved and underrepresented communities, like whatever it might be. Like, I think that if we have this group of best trainers in the world, we need to make sure that we're not just sending them to the best athletes. We need to make sure that we're sending them to the people who could really use their craft.
You're going to bring me to tears, man. You got me thinking about a couple of specific kids and situations. And like this thing is so potent. And I say this thing of health and wellness, well-being, right? I don't necessarily believe in competition amongst the fitness industry. Like if you're doing something and you're moving around and you're being a half decent bloke or a lady, great. You do your thing, man. If you want to do reform Pilates, go bloody do it, man. Like if that's your thing and you don't like CrossFit, go do it. I prefer this thing, so I'm gonna go do this. If we can refer elsewhere, you go do your thing. You want to go play American football, you want to go play European football, lacrosse, whatever, no problem. But let's just make sure that we're caring to the person to the left and right of us, right? We're developing socially, and we're just kind of trying to have a little bit of fun before they throw dirt on top of us, right? And it is so potent, though. It is. It really is. To quote Carl Steadman, you can't teach give a shit, and I think that's why. I think that's why a lot of CrossFit coaches out there are one of the greatest in the world, because you can't do it if you don't care.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's just not going to work. You're not going to show up at 4:30 in the morning. You're not going to stay there until 10 p.m. at night. You're not going to do your lesson plans when it's still dark out and it's cold, and you just won't. You'll do it for 6 months and it'll be over. And if we are able to just sprinkle a little bit of time on that, and we can show people that you care, right? That's the big thing, right? Especially with kids. You know, you said put a little bit of time and effort into a kid, and you're afraid of basically mucking it up, right? Yeah, but you might be the only person in their life that actually shows that effort, and that's profound, man.
Yes.
That really that really kicks me in the gut, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't, this is not like a facade of making it fun, and training kids is fun, because that's going to be what works to, you know, get the results that we are hoping that they get. Like,
Yeah.
it is fun. However, it is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be a trainer of youth, right? And from the sense of, people who are mandatory reporters, because you are, licensed to work with kids, all the way to just, a parent of raising your kids, and then trying to teach them a couple things about fitness along the way. But one thing, Alex, that I've heard Stedman's quote, you can't teach that. But for some reason, I just thought of like just to play devil's advocate, can
It's
you
a great
teach
question, man.
it? And it would obviously, just like anything, right? Learning as an adult is a little bit more challenging than if you started 15 years ago. But I would look at it from the lens of, like, kids are going to learn from what we teach them. Hey, I want you to put your thumb here and your elbow here, right? Giving them a visual and an auditory teaching cue of, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. But really what they're learning is by watching us, right? They're watching the leaders. They're watching, and I don't mean leaders in the sense of just, the teachers and everything, but anyone who's influential inside their class, making noise, doing this, good or bad. They're intimidating. They're imitating what they see. So if you have a coach, a teacher that has a set of values of caring, whatever it is, and then they consistently do that, and then they praise those in the class who are following those values and highlighting them and letting them be the captains in the games, or letting them lead the exercises by demoing how to do it, then that could be something where it's like, it's not just about, hey, who squats with their knees tracking over their toes. It's who cares about other people in class. And those are the ones who get, I'm not saying get the candy in the literal sense of get the piece of sugar, but like, they're the ones who get the treat and the reward of getting to be it during the game, getting to be captains during teamwork, team building exercises, and getting to be the leaders in the class when you're teaching movements. Because I would argue, Alex, I'm not sure who your coach was or who your teacher was that like really was the person who made you become a trainer, but they probably taught you how to care as well. And I think that we could do that for kids. And that's just another amazing part of like CrossFit kids programs, like CrossFit affiliates that have kids programs is like all those kids are learning from whatever the value system is in that gym. And yeah, that's anyone inside those four walls.
You know what, brother? I'd have to agree with that. I really would. I really, really would. Especially if you show, and you show when you get to adolescence and, young adults, you can show the benefit, and then you can really dive into it. They're usually a little bit deeper into studies as well, so they need to know a little bit more, and you can further that conversation along, right? And we can also like kind of project it. What happens if we don't do this? Where are they going to be in 10 years? What happens if we do this now? Where are they going to be in 10 years now compared to, right? But with kids, yeah, it is true. We're in products of our environment, and if the environment is a nurturing and caring place, and people care about each other, and we see it in the affiliate, right? Of guys, don't put your stuff away until everybody's done. The person who comes in last gets the loudest cheer. Don't come for a high five or a fist bump from the coach if I'm coaching until everybody's done, because the class isn't finished. And sometimes you've just got to reinstate those boundaries, and that's okay. We all forget. I forget things all the time. I'm blonde. And next thing you know, the community is leading itself. And it's the same with kids. They ended
Yeah.
up leading themselves. And, you look over, one kid's picked up another kid, brushing it off. How are you doing? You okay? I know you fell over and scraped your knee. I know it's going to hurt. Just little things like that. So I would have to agree, mate.
Yeah. I mean, I learned that from CrossFit Fort Vancouver, and I mean, the owner of that gym, Adam Knifer, that's a trickle down effect you want to see in
Yeah.
terms of the type of person that he is, and then you just go down the list of like coaches, like you got Adam, and then you got Colin, Christina, Jess, Ashley, Courtney, Coach Eric, like you have all these people that are leaders in the gym, and they all walk the walk, and because doing they're all doing the things right, and it's like, oh, that's what you do. Then the other people, instead of telling them that you have to do it, they just start doing it. And what you just said of like, sometimes people forget, like if you just say, or if you have it written up on the wall, like, no one cleans up until we're all done, like that's not actually doing it. You know what I mean? It's when everyone decides to do that, and when that is in place, and when the new person walks into the gym, they're just like, they may not know it, but they're like, why the heck is this happening? And then back to what you're saying about questions is like, hey, let me tell you why.
Mm.
Peel back that layer.
Yeah. And asking
And
questions isn't a bad thing.
yeah, totally. And I would say that that was the last gym that I was at, and that was fairly recently. But now, as a teacher, we have values at our school, and
Yeah.
in our PE program, the teacher that I'm with right now is incredible at being a leader, and she has these values of kindness, respect, and hard work, and it's just pushed out all day long of like, hey, that was super nice. Really appreciate you being nice to the other kid. Fist bump here. Hey, I really appreciate you respecting us by sitting up straight and listening. I think that if you keep doing that, I think we're actually going to get to play dodgeball at the end of class, because everyone's paying attention right now, and that's going to make it so that we don't have to dilly dally for too long, and we're going to get to play the game at the end of the day. And then obviously for hard work, but if we do have these value systems in place, it just makes it easier to communicate with our people what it is that we're trying to accomplish, and easier to remind them if we stray off the path.
100%. I quite often think that everyone should have an experience of coaching kids to realize it's no different to coaching adults. And I also think about neurodiversity, and people should have to coach people living with a neurodiverse or physical abnormality or something like that, like an adaptive athlete, because you realize, it's all the same. We might have to scale here and bring it up here and take it down here and slightly alter this, blah, 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 blah. But it's all the same.
Yeah. I would say that the knowledge, right? Like, how much time and effort do you put into learning more, like your own time as a trainer? If I do want to work with X population, big picture wise, it's all the same. And then how much time and effort do I want to show that I care by learning about things that go along that? But the way that you have to do is you have to start.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I've never taught a class of individuals that are over a certain age. Like I've been a part of programs where it's, the Legends programs, the Masters class, like I've done that, helping out and being a part of it. But if I actually really wanted to make that something that I'm doing consistently, like if I want to get better at that, I just have to learn.
Sure.
And that's going to come along the way. Because if you're like, well, I am going to coach kids, but I'll do that in 2 years. I'm just going to study and learn as much as I can about coaching kids. Is you got to start. Like you got to start doing it, and you can do that along the way. And I'm grateful for the fact that like I found CrossFit as a teenager, and then got to, during college, teach others, coach others in my parents' garage. Like I was at affiliate, I was at my parents' garage, I was at parks, I was at schools, and I was doing all this learning by coaching, and then also real quick going over to school and getting my degree. But really what the learning was putting my putting my feet in the arena and actually going out there and messing up and learning from those mess ups and being humbled way too many times, not way too many times, but more times than I can count. And I just think that that's a part of the way. So if anyone is like on the fence about coaching kids, I've hopefully reached this out to as many people as possible, but we'll continue to do so. It's like, you just got to start coaching kids.
Yeah, man.
And if you're like, well, I really don't know where to start, make it fun.
100%. The big picture. Yeah, I would agree again. The big picture is the same. I would just tackle people's thought processes of like, it's, those barriers that we place in front of ourselves, those boxes that we shove ourselves in, and be like, no, like that's too hard. It's in the too hard basket. It's like, no, it's quite similar. And yeah, okay. Then when we open those doors and get more nuanced, things are going to be slightly different. We're going to waver off that path. Yeah, that's normal, because now we're coaching under 12s. Now we're coaching under 18s. Now you're coaching plus 75s. There's difference.
Yeah.
But in the big picture, grand scheme of things, it's all fitness. They all want to see that you care about them. They all want a high five.
Yeah. That's it's humans. We just want attention and to be loved.
It's humans. Brother, I got 3 questions.
Okay.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Do less better. It's the first one that popped in my head. I don't know if it's the greatest, but a mentor of mine, a man by the name of Todd Widman, explained that when I sat down to listen to the CrossFit Kids course, or to take the CrossFit Kids course. And at first I thought it was just about like coaching kids, but let's say that I want to be a better husband. Like, I don't need to go to the ends of the earth to try to show all these different things. It's like, I just need to do less better.
Yeah.
I want to be a better father. I just need to do less better. And I think that that's a reminder to people who are busy and, their days are filled up. We got all these things to do. We got all these people to serve. We got all this job work to get done. It's just like, hey, do less better. And it's probably going to be better. And then you get to do more things and enjoy life more.
That was one of the first things I heard in the CrossFit scene many years ago from Hobart.
Yeah.
Do less better. I was like, you know what? You're onto something there, brother. What's the worst piece of life advice you've ever received?
Worst piece of life advice. First thing that popped into my mind, I remember I had a coach one time who yelled at us when we weren't walking on the paths. We were walking out to the track, I remember, from the high school, and we like cut across, and he was like, these paths are laid for you. You have to follow these paths. Other people put these paths down for you. You need to follow these paths. And it just like, I just remember having a feeling of just being like, no, I'm like, I feel like this is not only faster to real quick walk across this dirt, but also it's like, why do you have to always do it this way, or one way, or the way? Like there can be multiple ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, I don't know if it's worse, but just first one that popped to my mind.
Yeah, I mean, coaches can have such a good impact, but it also can do the reverse, right? We need to hold that responsibility carefully.
Yeah, let's just say I'm not going to die on that hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't walk on this path.
What are the 3 words you would tell your younger self?
I'm trying to make it 3 words because it's 4 words. You'll be okay. The 4 words were everything's going to be okay. I think a lot of, and we just had a training recently at school. It was we got to meet up with a bunch of our kids. We got to have a person come in, and we talked about, how to make our school a safer environment. And it was really brought up just like how many kids are anxious like what goes on through the life of a teenager, what goes on through the life of a middle schooler, what goes on through a life of a young person. Like there's a lot of chaos happening. And scientifically we understand why so much is happening in the brain. But, I think that just, having a kid's back and just like remind them like, hey, everything's going to be okay. Like, and that would, whether I believe myself or not, I'm not sure, but all going to be okay.
It's always nice to hear it though. Brother, thank you so much, man. This is a bloody honor and a privilege, honestly. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled by the invite. Thank you for taking the time to chat. And I will say that I am jealous of like the light coming in and out of your room. Like I just imagine a beautiful day in the background of just like clouds covering the sun and then uncovering the sun.
I tell you what, I'm gonna try go get a tan. It's not worked in all my life, but we're gonna try.
We get some vitamin D.
Brother, thank you so much, and hopefully we cross paths soon and do a little bit of fitness.
Sounds good. Thank
Thank
you,
man. Have a good day. Speak soon. See you later, everybody.